Hi there. Thanks for stopping by the Equity Trust virtual classroom. My name is John Bowens, and in this segment, we're going to talk about what you cannot invest in with your self-directed IRA, Roth IRA, 401k, or other tax-advantaged investment accounts. So many investors come to me and say, John, I want to invest in XYZ investment. Is it okay? Is it acceptable? And my response is the Internal Revenue Code and the IRS guidelines are exclusive rather than being inclusive. So good news is we're only told what we cannot invest in, not what we can invest in. And this opens up the world to take control and have more freedom over our retirement plans because we can invest in a wide array of alternative investments beyond just traditional stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. We can invest in assets like real estate, rental properties, fix and flip transactions, wholesaling, mortgage notes, trust deeds. We can invest in private companies, private placement offerings. We can invest in cryptocurrency, oil and gas, gold and silver. There's a wide array of alternative investment options that we can pursue that are all deemed permissible. So just remember that it's not what we can invest in, it's what we can't invest in. All right, so let's talk about the 5 most frequently asked questions or 5 assets or investments that we find folks oftentimes ask about that your IRA is not permitted to invest in. All right, so number 1 is collectibles. So your IRA cannot invest in collectibles. What would be considered a collectible? Think artwork, stamps, rugs, things of that nature. The 2 most common ones I hear are artwork and antique automobiles. So anything with collectible value, if you will, that's considered a collectible would be deemed impermissible. And so what happens is if you invest in an asset or you do something with your IRA that is disallowed, it's called a prohibited transaction. If you go to the IRS guidelines, you'll see acts resulting in penalties. And so we're going to talk about 4 more of these. If your IRA engages in a prohibited transaction, your IRA ceases to exist. It becomes distributed. So you don't want to do these types of investments. That's why we're sharing this with you. But again, you have an entire world of other investment options. So you can do a lot more with your IRA than you can't do with your IRA. So if you do a prohibited transaction, you're going to pay taxes and penalties upon the distribution. All right, number 2, moving on. You cannot loan money to yourself or your business, such as if you're a real estate investor and you have an LLC or S Corp and you want your IRA to loan money to your business, that would be considered a prohibited transaction. So no lending to yourself. All right, now you also need to be mindful that there are other people that your IRA cannot lend to beyond just you. Your IRA cannot lend to anyone that's considered a disqualified person. So who are disqualified persons to your IRA? Think anyone up and down the family tree, parents, grandparents, children, grandchildren. Your spouse is a disqualified person. Any LLC or other entity, trust, or partnership that is owned 50% or greater by disqualified persons is also a disqualified person. So your real estate businesses or your other businesses are disqualified persons. And so you have to be mindful of these disqualified persons. Your IRA cannot loan money to any of these disqualified persons. All right, so think immediate family members, your IRA can't loan money to. All right, number three, moving on, is you cannot buy property that you yourself own or any other disqualified person owns. All right, so any properties owned by you, your spouse, your LLC or trusts or corporations, your children, your parents, so anyone that is considered a disqualified person, like we talked about, up and down the family tree, your IRA cannot buy property from those individuals. One of the most common questions I get is, John, I own a property now, it's a rental property. How can I get that into my IRA? You can't. It would be a prohibited transaction if you were to attempt to do that. The follow-up question to that is oftentimes, John, what if I just sell that property to a third party and then my IRA buys it from that individual? Well, that would be considered a straw man transaction, and that also would be prohibited. All right, so that one's pretty easy, right? The IRA is tax privileged. You got to go out and find new investments. All right, number 4, we cannot own a property in our IRA and then use it for personal use. All right, so number 4, no personal use. No personal use. So what do we mean by this? One of the most common examples is vacation rentals. So if my IRA buys a vacation rental and I rent it out for, let's say, 9 months out of the year, I can't go and stay there at that property. Can't use it for personal use. You'll also hear this referred to as the personal benefit rule. Right? So our IRAs can't personally benefit ourselves in the here and now. Now, yes, you want to benefit the IRA. You want to generate tax-free or tax-deferred profit and put it back in the IRA, but that's for our retirement. So the best way to think of it is IRAs are investing vehicles. You want to use them for investing vehicles. You don't want to use your IRAs to fund yourself or your business entities. In other words, don't use your IRA as a bank account. Okay, use it as a true investment vehicle. All right, last but not least, number 5 is you cannot sign a personal guarantee on a loan that your IRA takes on. All right, so no personal guarantee, no personal guarantee. Now, a lot of people ask me on this personal guarantee question, does this mean that I can't get a loan to buy IRA-owned properties? Not necessarily. There are lenders out there that will actually loan to an IRA. They're known as non-recourse lenders. So let me back up for a moment. What am I talking about here? If my IRA wants to go out and buy a property and use the IRA as a down payment and get a loan, that loan has to be a non-recourse loan. I, as the account holder, cannot sign a personal guarantee. The reason why is because under the provisions of the tax code, it would be considered a prohibited transaction for me to personally guarantee the debt that my IRA is taking on. So no personal guarantee. I have to go to a non-recourse lender if my IRA is going to go out and buy real estate with debt financing. Now, what you'll learn in real estate investing with self-directed IRAs, a lot of people aren't getting loans. A lot of people aren't using the IRA as a down payment and then getting a loan. They're oftentimes going into a real estate deal as a cash buyer. IRA buys the property. IRA pays for all fix-up repairs. IRA receives all profits. Or, and we have other video training on this, the IRA will partner with another investor or maybe partner with a spouse or other loved one. Now, that's in another training where we talk all about how to partner multiple IRAs, partner with disqualified persons, partner with non-disqualified persons. But just remember, your IRA cannot borrow money and you sign a personal guarantee. You have to find one of these non-recourse lenders. I hope you enjoyed the 5 most common questions on investments that you cannot do with your self-directed IRA. Remember, there's this entire universe of investments and strategies and techniques that you can do with your IRA. The Internal Revenue Code and the IRS guidelines are exclusive, not inclusive. So you can invest in rentals and rehabs and do all of these creative investments with your self-directed IRA. You just have to make sure that you're thinking down the right path. I hope you enjoyed this session, everyone. Check out our other YouTube videos on our YouTube channel. Make sure to subscribe, hit the little bell for notifications so you'll get real-time notifications of all of our upcoming videos. Until the next program, keep leveraging compounding interest in the absence of taxation.